It is interesting, and I think somewhat appropriate, that all of the conversation that we had here so far is about the opposing team, because no one has talked about the Vikings all year long. They're sitting there with 2 losses, and yet we talk about the NFC like it is a 2-team race. I do it every single morning on Get Up. Is it the Lions? Is it the Eagles? Should the Vikings be offended by that, Tedy?
I think they absolutely should. Truthfully, I think the Vikings can beat Detroit. I really do. I mean, in a one-game playoff game situation, they've played them tight before. It's a divisional foe. There's familiarity. I think this is where, again, Sam Darnold is a big question. Okay, Detroit, what are they going to do in terms of decision-making? Each team has their weaknesses. With all the injuries on defense, Rex, for Detroit, I think Minnesota and a lot of teams in the NFC can see the previously indestructible Detroit Lions have a little bit of weaknesses you can exploit.
Yeah, I mean, I see the Lions blowing them out. I mean, quite honestly.
They didn't blow them out. They played each other, and they lost on a field goal with 15 seconds left.
No, I understand that. I mean, you know, hey, and it's great. Play close all you want. But when you haven't scored over 25 points in the last, like 4 out of the last 5 games, they're not blowing teams out. They're 10-2 and things like that. I think their defense is vastly overrated. Today, I'm going to tell you what I kid you guys about picking the Falcons, and look, there's reasons to think the Falcons can be in this game. There shouldn't be with a 10-2 team, but they're 28th in passing yards allowed. That's what this Minnesota vaunted defense is, the 85 Bears, excuse me. All right, they're 26 in completions allowed of 20 yards or more down the field. You can get some home run hits on this guy. Kirk Cousins has gone against this defense for how many years now? So he ought to be familiar with it and know how to attack this defense. I would not be surprised if this one comes right down to the wire, because that's what the Vikings do. They play that way. And so we'll see.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I understand the passing numbers. They're also the #1 defense in the NFL against the run, which is pretty important. I know you think a lot of that, Rex. Yeah. They also lead the NFL in interceptions, right, and takeaways. And so this guy here, you got Kirk Cousins, who also leads the NFL in interceptions the wrong way, going against each other, and something's got to give. I loved what Graz brought up there. I think there's 2 important notes. Listen, he's done this. He's played a former team before, right? We mentioned going to Washington. And that he also is no stranger to QB controversy, right? And again, he's done this. This is kind of how he came into the league in Washington with RG3, and he's always seemed to answer the bell. And again, I think we're going to see that today. This guy, there's a reason he's been so good and so resilient for so long. And again, here's one more time to do it.
Schefter, I want to ask you a bigger picture question for a minute on the Vikings, if I can. I've had 1 million people ask me this. You're a far better person to answer it. Sam Darnold playing as well as he has. J.J. McCarthy, a first-round pick last year, relatively high first-round pick, who obviously never got a chance to see the field. What does Darnold's future look like? Is he the future of Minnesota, or is he going to become a free agent?
Sam Darnold and the Vikings have not had any contract discussions whatsoever. So Sam Darnold right now is tracking to become a free agent, and the only quarterback under contract in Minnesota for 2025 is J.J. McCarthy, who's coming off the torn ACL. And that's part of the reason that you go out and you add Daniel Jones on a 1-year deal so you could show him what the organization would be like, what it would be like to play for the Vikings and live in Minnesota, because the chances are there's going to be a team out there that sees Sam Darnold in a Baker Mayfield type role. They go and they pay him more than Minnesota is willing or capable of. So Sam Darnold goes and quarterbacks the New York Jets, the New York Giants. You pick the quarterback-needy team that is willing to pay Sam Darnold. It's not going to be the Minnesota Vikings because they've invested in J.J. McCarthy. Unless they can figure out a deal that works for both sides. He goes out there and he sees there's not as much money as I thought, and it makes sense to be back here one more time.
Sometimes you got to recognize the partnership of quarterback and head coach and play caller. And it's exactly what I recognize here. This is very Goff-like to me. When Goff was kicked to the curb in L.A. and went to Detroit, now look what he is there. This is the same effect that Sam Darnold is here. I mean, it took me a while to come around, but this guy, big, strong, athletic, does great things for this football team. I love Sam Darnold here.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is a huge mistake from this organization if they don't make an effort, a concerted effort to re-sign him. I agree with you, Teddy. He's the main reason I think that they are so legitimate. His growth this year and what he's proven in clutch situations that he can deliver, he is not limited in any way from a play caller standpoint. You can do anything and everything with this guy at quarterback.
Doesn't Sam have to know that too? Like, why would you can go? All money ain't good money, is the old saying in dominoes,
totally
okay?
agree.
Because it's like, listen, you can't go out and get it and then just, look the way that, you could struggle. You could struggle. What you have in Minnesota can be special, I believe, with Sam Darnold.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, but it's absolutely crazy that they don't see him as the future.
Yeah.
Well, they might, but they haven't got to that point yet. They might. They see J.J. McCarthy, I think, as the future, and they have to see what Sam Darnold's price tag is going to be.
I'll just say this.
Just don't watch his college.
Sam Darnold has seen what it's like to play for Kevin O'Connell, and he has seen what it's like to play for the Jets. Which of those two things do you think Sam Darnold thinks of more fondly at this particular moment? I know things can change. We'll see which way it goes. I was just told we have breaking news from Pittsburgh, and we have Sal Paolantonio there with the latest. Sal, what's going on?
Michael, let's get right to the news. George Pickens, wide receiver for the Steelers, is inactive for this football game. I just got word from the Steelers PR department that he will not play in this game. He went up on the injury report on Friday with a hamstring injury. He was involved in the walkthrough, and they thought they were going to work him out. We have been watching, looking for him to come on the field. He did not come out on the field and work out. George Pickens, a shocker, will not play in this football game against the Cleveland Browns. Greeny?
That is enormous news, Sal, and it is surprising on a variety of levels, not the least of which is all of the talking that he did this week. Schefty, are there any blanks you can fill in for us here? This news surprises me. The matchup against Greg Newsome was something that felt like a really good little sidebar in this game, and now we're not going to get it.
Here's what happened. He hurt his hamstring, woke up with it sore on Friday. They put him through the walkthrough yesterday. The plan was that he was going to play today, but they did want to test him pregame. So what this tells me clearly is he went out pregame and his hamstring didn't feel right. They didn't feel comfortable with him going because the plan was for him to be out there. So the fact that he's now inactive, according to Sal, tells me that he just didn't feel right during warm-ups.
The Steelers are a pretty significant favorite at home. Does this change anyone's opinions on what they expect from the game today?
This is a great player. Being there for us, for Moss likes to say all the time, those moon balls that Russ throws up there for Pickens, and it's not 50-50. It's more like 70-30 with this kid because he's so talented. Also, what I've begin to notice about this Pickens kid is this is a tough tackle. Also, you got guys that just can't grab those legs. He's a great run-after-catch guy. This is huge for this game.
The Browns play an old-school style defense. It is man-to-man, everybody up in the box. Here we go. We're coming. This is what it is. And George Pickens is a guy that wins the one-on-one, right? He is that element for this Steelers offense. This is a huge loss for them. Obviously, they made the decision to go get Mike Williams. I look for him to play a much bigger role in this game today.
Yeah, and I can tell you this. Jim Schwartz is like, oh, really? Watch this, man. You want to talk about blitzing off the bus right now? Because they're not worried about Mike Williams outrunning people and all that. Mike Williams, I think it's a great pickup. You're right. There are going to be a lot of balls thrown that way. However, they're going to be even more aggressive than normal now. They are going to be pinning their ears back. I wouldn't be surprised if they blitz at least 60% of the time.
Very quickly, for what it's worth, Sal just told us that Pickens did not even come out and warm up in this situation. Yeah. So the expectation that he would at least try and give it a go never materialized for whatever reason. Meanwhile, you're looking at Russell Wilson. The combination of the two quarterbacks in this game is an interesting one to me, Alex. Last week, if you look at what Jameis Winston did and what Russell Wilson did, the two of them combined to throw for 911 yards. Jameis had 497 of those. So I know the Steelers are a very good defense, vastly different from what he faced. But he's going to get his a little bit today. The Steelers will probably not win this game 10-7.
Absolutely not. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of last week's game plan. Listen, they spread the Bengals out last week. This is the Steelers offense. That guy right there, Russell Wilson, doing a ton of check with me's at the line of scrimmage. I think he threw 13 balls to the backs last week. right? So
Yeah,
I think you're going to see that. You're not going to play Cleveland tight. You're not going to two tight ends and a fullback and just pound it up in there. You're going to have to spread them out a little bit. Find your mismatches. Austin may be a part of that today, right? Find some ways to get production, and I think a lot of it through Russ. Let him get to the line of scrimmage. Let him decipher and get to the best play.
And that was with Pickens. I mean, you've got the deep threat last week, but still, Russ shows I'm just going to take a profit.
Yep.
You know, I'm going to check it down. I'm going to give it to Patterson. I mean, Harris, Warren, Patterson. I know Pickens isn't there this week, but those are tough tackles. All right, these are run after the catch guys that can do it with the best of them. These are the running back throws right here that Russ. I mean, this is a called screen, but the check downs is really. I mean, defensively, I got to play deep to short, right? So I got to worry about the deep throws. But when you continue to hit these checkdowns, I got to come up a little bit tighter. They're telling them, play the checkdowns a little bit tighter. And Rex, when you tell backers that, you're up a little bit more, so the intermediate to deep stuff gets a little more open. So Russ shows various different things week to week that challenges defensive players.
Speaking of challenging the defense, do you think we see a little more Justin Fields?
I'd love to.
I mean, because now you talk about challenging the defense. You want to back them off a little bit, put that quarterback run game in there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a little more Justin Fields.
You and me been saying, I mean, I'm right on there with you, Rex. Just the more variety from the Pittsburgh offense that makes the Browns deep, because the Browns have a couple game records out there now.
Yeah.
I mean, they could take it to the house. They can do it through interceptions with Newsome and Ward, Garrett on the other side. An easy little strip sack, and they're going back, and there's 6 points. So, I mean, to give them variety on what they prepare against with Justin Fields, I'd love to see
Myles
that.
Garrett had 3 sacks in their first matchup 2 weeks ago. I think it's a great point. They're going to have to find that production somewhere, and I think Justin Fields is a good place to
Jalen
look.
Warren's come on, too, lately.
Yep.
To compliment Najee Harris. And we've been waiting for him to be the Jalen Warren of last year. Slowly but surely, he's begun to do that. We'll see if he can continue that today.
I'm smiling because we've talked this game so much, and Jameis hasn't come up. Yeah. Because, man, how do you not love Jameis Winston? I mean, just the fact that even if he's on my team, Rex, and I'm on defense, and we're calling defense stuff, I know I'm going to have a chance. Yep. It could go the other way, but I know I got a chance. That's why this game's going to be so exciting.
Pray to the Lord to
to
deliver him from the pick sixes this week.
I love it, too.
And if you're on his team, you always have to be ready for sudden change. Because, I mean, it is a frequent occurrence. Pretty much every game starts 14-14. He throws 2 touchdowns to both sides, and then we go from there.